right, so remember the class that we did another radical experiment in empathy? And we talked about Israel and Palestine and the conflict currently in Gaza. And the October 6th attack in Israel and so on and so forth, right? Oh, wait, what's that?
You said that you did this last time. It was October 7th.
Oh, October 7th. Yeah, October 7th. So, listen. So what happened was we didn't really get to air out a conversation, and with these three lovely folks, and so we're gonna do that today. But I have the idea. No, I know that most people in this room are not following global events very closely, and at most, those of you who do follow are following a singular global event or maybe one thing that's happening that you're more connected to. But most people who are the ages of most of the people in this room are not paying really close attention. And in all fairness, there's no real reason that you should, because it's just not what life is. At some point you start to move in that direction, but this idea that, you should know what's going on in the world and how dare you not know and so on and so forth, that kind of shaming, I'm not into that. It's just what it is. I didn't really seriously start following global events till I was 23. And at 23, I just really dug in. But, it was part of what I was doing in my life. But for you all, I can understand that you have other things. You're thinking about lots of other things. And also in college, if you're taking university life, your studies seriously, there are a lot of things to really learn and put your attention on. Not to mention the fact that, there are all sorts of just questions of your personal lives, and what's happening. Okay? So with that in mind, I think we've designed today's class in a way that you are going to start with the kinds of questions that we think that many of you would be asking, and we're going to leave it up to the two of you to ask the questions. So can we start? Can you introduce yourselves?
My name's Connor. I'm a junior, and I'm a finance major, and I'm from California.
My name is Morgan. I'm a senior. My major is nuclear engineering, and I'm also from California.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the two of you you know very little about Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, I haven't really been following up on that stuff.
Uh-huh, okay. Okay, good, you're perfect folks. Okay, can we introduce the three of you, please?
Hi, I'm Jawa. I'm a psych major. I'm a senior, and I'm Palestinian.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in criminology and minoring in Spanish. And I'm culturally Jewish, not really. I consider myself a pro-Palestine Jew.
My name's Ethan Nagelberg. I'm a sophomore, fellow nuclear engineering. And my family, I was raised Jewish, and my background is Ashkenazi Jewish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thanks. Thanks for coming back, by the way. And I know that the three of you, after class, we talked about you coming back, and I think it's valuable. I think it's really good. Here's the thing. There are a lot of conflicts that are happening in the world today. There are a lot of things happening. There are quite a number of things that are happening that are really very unsettling for me. I think about a lot of things related to the social world and the political world and what's going on, and conflict and war. It's a big part of my thinking as a sociologist. And there are quite a number of things happening in the world today that really unsettle me. This particular conflict and the conflict around Israel and Palestine is particularly troubling because it has the possibility of, there are many reasons that it's very disturbing and unsettling and so on, but also has the possibility of just blowing up and being a flashpoint for global conflict that really is the kind of conflict for which we can't return. And we just go down a path and we can't go back. Kind of like I'm watching unroll here in the United States with the coming elections. That, we could really be in for some difficult times and might see some things that are just haven't happened in the United States, okay? So that's why we're returning to this conflict. So we're going to start with the two of you, right? You don't know anything. And your three classmates are going to give their responses. Not each one to each thing, right? And we're going to try to go fast so we get in as many questions as possible. And you all might have some questions, and we definitely want to take a question from the stream or two. And we know this guy will have a question. So what's your first question that you would ask?
So October 7th was considered a terrorist attack, correct, by Hamas?
You guys could just keep your mics on, basically.
Yeah, it was an invasion by Hamas into Israeli land in which they killed and kidnapped Israeli citizens and brought them back as captives.
So that's kind of what started this whole I know Palestine and Israel have been kind of at each other's throats for this whole century, but that's kind of what started this new thing, right?
Correct.
I don't know if you guys would know
Wait,
this.
hang on. Do you have another response?
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, that attack specifically was the catalyst for what is happening currently, like the current like awful invasion and attacks, but like a conflict between like Israelis and Palestinians has been going on since at least like 1948. And like I would say that this specific like genocide started with October 7th, but the conflict started a long time ago.
Okay, so you
Sorry,
said
am I able to respond to her real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Are you saying genocide towards Gazans?
Yes.
You are aware that the civilians...
Wait, hang on.
Okay. Sorry about the... Sorry.
No, that's good. You don't start a statement with "you are aware." All right. But
My apologies.
No,
I
you
caught
got
myself,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's cool. Dude.
Okay.
Dude, no, hang on.
Yeah.
But listen, let me also say to you, dude, genocide is a really strong word, okay?
I wrote down the stages of genocide before I came here.
Well,
so
no, I got
remember
that. I
them.
got that. But just understand that you, as a teacher, right? There's certain rhetoric that it's a rhetorical word, right? That you use, and like I can make the argument for anything if I go to specific definitions and so on. So I just want to say, you want to be really careful with that.
I just wanted to say in response to that within the current conflict, the combatant to civilian ratio within Gaza is 1 to 1.5, which compared to the average of 1 to 9 is dramatically lower.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
It means that Israeli troops going into Gaza, on average, are killing one Hamas combatant to 1.5 civilians.
Okay.
Looking at the average ratio amongst other wars, it's 1 combatant to 9 civilians.
Okay. So here, I'm gonna help you guys out. Is there any? Yeah. Do you want to riff? Do you want to riff on that? Do you have a question about that? Do you have a question on that? You can just leave it on, basically.
I mean, 1 to 1.5 is still bad though, because you're still killing civilians, right?
Absolutely, but to call this specific instance a genocide when it's still dramatically less than other wars is an extreme.
Okay. All right.
But
hey,
can I say?
Go ahead.
But like, you're still killing civilians though. That's the thing. Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't really compare. Like, yes, they're both Like, people are still dying, though, at the end of the day, you know? Like, innocent people are still dying, and you can't just compare it to past wars, you know?
I'm not denying the tragedy of civilian deaths.
You're just saying it's not a genocide because it's less deaths?
I'm saying calling this specific instance a genocide does not make sense.
Okay. all right, hang
Can
on.
I say something?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Hang on though. Hang on. Dude, do you know anything about the Are you following it at all, or did you just were you just responding to that?
Oh, just to that. But I know
You-
based off of your class. That's
No. Okay. From my class. Okay. But you were just responding to that.
Yeah.
No. Speaking to the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's a really good response, right? Like this is the that's an authentic response. Like you don't, it's really important that the two of you are just collecting data. So the first thing I would be, if I were in your shoes, sitting over here, no, I'm not. But I would be wondering, wait, can you get me in the chair over there, bro? Can you, oh, dude, thanks, man. If I'm sitting here, when someone uses a number like that, like first off, wait, hang on. I'm setting it up. Okay, we're gonna get to you in a second. Stream. These are students. Okay, everyone's a student here, and what we're doing is demonstrating that students, young people, can have really thoughtful conversations about incredibly complex issues that divide the world and threaten to turn us all into a nuclear conflagration. So I just want to give you credit for just making that very simple observation, because that's a really cool observation. All right? Jawa. We don't want to, we got a lot of questions, so we don't want to go too far.
I just wanted to talk about the fact that Israel has some of the most sophisticated and largest intelligent agency. So when you're talking about casualties, like civilian casualties, 1.5 or 0.5 or 0.1 is still too much when you're targeting a specific group. It's not the whole population that was participating or revolting against Israel or the IDF or whatever it may be. So when you have, Mossad is literally one of the most funded and strongest intelligent agencies. So in that case, you should expect an agency and a government like that to not have that many civilian casualties.
I
Okay.
wanted to add on. Oh,
No,
are we
hang on.
done this? part?
No, hang on. We're going to move off this
Okay.
topic. But I want to say, yeah, I would hope in the modern age, and then I'm going to come back to you, bro. I would hope in the modern age that we would be able to get away from so much violence committed against civilian populations. And the truth is, in modern wars, civilians, the greatest number of casualties are civilians. And I would hope, for the reasons that you said, if we actually use our intelligence well, like we pay a lot of money for militaries to have a lot of intelligence. If we do it right and do it well, then we can have military to military engagement.
Yeah,
But-
it doesn't really seem that that's what they're trying to do. It just seems like a lot of bombs dropping because
Yeah.
it's not specific, it's not calculated, it's just Hamas might be here, so let's just.
Well, here's the thing, though. I want to respond to that. And let me respond to this one, bro, because I have another question for you. And then you get ready for your next questions, okay? It's pretty clear that Hamas has decided to put civilians out front and be behind the civilians, whether it's underground or whatever the case is. And so these leaders have got to take some responsibility for that. That's just basic, for me, kind of sociology. Dude, the question for you is, when you think about civilian casualties, how do you feel about that, by the way? Just as a Jew, as a Jewish person, right? How do you feel? How is that? How is that for you to see that?
I mean, of course, regardless of what side a casualty is on, a casualty is still a person's life lost that is decades of potential wasted due to a larger conflict that they personally might have had nothing to do with. And like, I mean, again, regardless of what side it was on, and with the amount of lives lost of Jewish people due to the Holocaust and other events, of course, I feel sentiment to any civilian casualty. But also, like you said, with Hamas integrating themselves within.
Yeah, hang on. Don't go any further. Just stay right there. Like, yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, that's like a really. So, Morgan, you heard. By the way, the reason we're going to get anything you want to say, we're going to get to.
No, I wanted to explain why I said genocide, because I know that it's like.
No, it's okay. We're going to move beyond. You want to explain why you said genocide?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll come back to it.
Okay.
It doesn't. It gets us, dude. Here. The thing is, the reason I asked you to say that is because it's really. I think Morgan, in particular, just needed to hear that from you. It's like, shit. Instead of right away going to numbers, it's like, man. Okay, do you have another question?
Well, no, I was just gonna like say, it kind of felt like you were devaluing the human life by saying it's not 1 in, I think you said 1.5 is not as bad as 1 in 9, but like 1.5 is still people dying, so.
That's coming from someone who doesn't know anything about the conflict, right? So hang on, to everybody, let that be a lesson in a way. Like, here's someone who doesn't know anything and is saying like, no, I want to hear the value of life. Not that you don't know anything. You know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have another question? Who has the next question for them?
You wanna go?
I was gonna ask how, because I know Hamas were the leaders or whatever. I was gonna ask like how popular they were with the Palestinians. Like, is this a group that's kind of controlling them with like a 30% approval rate, and now they're getting punished, or is this an overwhelmingly supported group?
Dude, that's a really, really good and a really important question.
Well, like I said in the last class, they were formed as a resistance group, and a lot of people will argue that they were brought into power by the Palestinian people that are in Gaza right now. So as in like they voted for them and they want them in power. But I mean, I can't redo all the math for you, but there was a video that I saw where a guy basically did all the math to see how many people could have actually voted for Hamas that are alive today that you could say support them. But the popular opinion, whether or not they like them, it doesn't really matter. Because whether or not Hamas is there to be in control of Gaza, Israel has more control. Israel is controlling the Gaza Strip more than anyone else.
Also, like, to an extent, there's like only so much that you can judge a population by their leadership. Like, like Americans get like a lot of flack, and like regardless of your politics, we all know that when Trump was in office, like Americans like got a lot of flack abroad. Like, if you went abroad, people would be like, oh my God, like what's going on in your country right now? Like, but there are Americans that didn't vote for Trump. And so like the leadership of a country does not necessarily represent all of the civilians of that country.
How's that?
I just want to, yeah. So to answer, so Hamas was officially voted into power in technically 2005. They weren't given control of power by the PLO, which is the Palestinian Leadership Organization, correct? Or Palestinian? Yeah. And they weren't officially given power till 2007. And since 2007, they've been in control of Gaza. However, there has not been an official election since then.
Yeah, which is important, right? Okay, so do you follow that, right? So the election was really, more than anything, a rejection of the Fatah, another party that was connected to the PLO, to a different organization.
Was it kind of like the elections that Russia has, where it's like an election,
No,
but
since then,
okay,
it's
yeah,
kind of been
since
like
2007.
that. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
alright.
I think there have been a couple of sham elections, so to speak, where they won 100% of the vote. Oh my God, like Putin. You know what I mean? 90.
I just want to, I'm sorry, can I ask Ethan a clarifying question?
Yeah.
What control does Hamas have over the Gaza Strip?
Wait, dude, do you understand that question? Is that
No, actually, I really don't.
this is a really good question?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I'm not sure what Ethan's response would be, but Israel controls the sea that is, that borders the Gaza Strip. Israel controls the border that between the Gaza Strip and Israel.
Yeah.
Israel controls the imports and exports and have banned a lot of things from coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this is going to sound really stupid because it is, but the tunnels that everyone keeps talking about, a lot of that was for smuggling like basic necessities like diapers that
For sure.
literally Israel banned, even chocolate.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about how Hamas controls the Gaza Strip, you also have to recognize how strongly Israel controls the Gaza Strip.
Okay, so Connor, do you have a response, a quick follow-up to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that before or after October 7th? Because sanctions are a big part of warfare.
No, this has been going for a really long time. This has
Okay.
been happening like
So
4 years.
almost 2 decades.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the idea is that, hey, this group of people get into power, okay, whatever, they get power, even if they didn't win that election, which they barely won, in 2007, even if they didn't win, they probably would have just taken power by force anyway. And then they just hold power. And people are afraid. I mean, they have power. And so people are afraid. So this is a thing. It's like, do you support them? Do you not support them? You might not support them, but you're gonna say that you support them because you have to, because you don't know who's gonna tell them that you said you didn't support them. So it's a really complex thing in that way. Do you wonder why? Do you have a question about what Jawad just said about Israel controlling all the things around Gaza, like the land and the sea and all the border crossings? Do you have a question about that? Okay, go ahead. Come on, you're going to come up with the next question. Okay, go ahead. Do you have a question about that? No, I just didn't really know. But I would be wondering if I were you. Why does Israel maintain such tight control? It's a small area. Can you put the map up really fast? Just so here, I'll do it over here so you can see it. So remember, this is the Mediterranean. So here's Egypt. So there's a border crossing in Egypt. There's a couple border crossings in Israel proper. And that's Gaza right there. Okay? So that's it. So you see, like, Israel controls the sea, and Israel controls everything around Gaza, and the Egyptians control here, but they do it in coordination with Israelis because the Egyptians don't want Palestinians in Egypt, right?
This might be like kind of mean to say, but why wouldn't they just cut off all the resources instead of bombing them?
Why wouldn't they cut off all the resources
Yeah,
instead
if
of
they
bombing
control
them?
everything, why wouldn't they just like starve them out or something like that?
Uh-huh.
They did.
Instead of like if they
are.
did like
That
if
is
they
what they're doing right now.
and then also bombing on top of it.
Okay.
Also like invading and like bombing on top of it. Sorry.
Okay. That's a really good
Yeah.
question.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
what she said.
Okay?
Oh, sorry. Like also
First
like,
off, no, also bombing on top. So there's, in a way, there's sort of, it's have an embargo.
Yeah.
And do you have a response to that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, responding to Jawa previously, is just asking why did Israel have to close the borders in the first place?
Why did they close?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a
do you know
response to
why
that.
they closed?
No, dude, you don't ask that. Just
Okay.
say, like, here's what I'm thinking.
Here's what I'm thinking. So looking back, like I said previously in the class, there was accounts of suicide bombings on those borders, resulting in Israel, out of fear for their citizens, having to increase border patrol and protection of their own civilians. So that is what led to those initial sanctions and closing of the borders
yeah, not
to
to
Gaza.
mention rockets going
Yes.
right into Israel proper.
Mhm.
So what happens is, just so you're aware of this, so the tunnels are coming from here in Egypt, and many of the tunnels are bringing basic necessities and stuff. I mean, all sorts of things. Very complex tunnels, by the way. This is not like a tunnel that, Connor, you made in your backyard with your friends. You know what I mean? These are really complex tunnels. And in some ways, the Israel people are aware of it. It's like you can't do shit. You can't do things like this if people aren't aware. Okay? So, do you have a follow-up?
How is Israel justifying it? Does Hamas use it to bring like guns and missiles and stuff
that's
too?
where you got to ask. Like, if the Israelis close off the entire Gaza Strip, where's Hamas get all their weaponry? Where'd they get all the weapons that they used on October 7th? Like, where do they get all the weapons that they use? How do they build the rockets to send rockets over into Israel proper? Right? So, by the way, Ethan's response to what he just said is like, well, one of the reasons Israel takes this position is because Palestinians have just declared a constant state of war, and they're going to be at war until whenever. And not every Palestinian, Hamas has, because remember, this is really important. I'm going to say this. I want to know if the three of you would disagree at all, okay? The vast majority of Palestinians, the vast majority of Israelis want peace, okay? And what it takes are a small handful of people to keep the war going, just like we see here in the United States, just like we see everywhere. So that's the justification for the Israeli push.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I don't disagree that both sides want peace, but both have very different views of peace, and Palestinians want liberation more than anything else.
Do you have a do you understand what she means by liberation? Go ahead. What do you think she means by that?
Like their own land back and like
Yeah.
peace and like nobody bothering them, like being free from any rule of the Israelites
Yeah. Well, like the Israelis.
or Israelis.
Yeah. So, like, for example, they want to be able to take their fishing boats out into the water as far as they want to go and fish wherever they want to fish. And they don't want Israeli gunboats out there sending them back to land. That would be an example. They want to be able to leave Gaza and travel to the West Bank to see their relatives, or travel into Israel. Israel proper is about 25% Arabs, Arab Muslims and Arab Christians, and 75% Jewish people. Okay, Zoe,
Sam.
what do you got?
I was going to say that I agree with Jawa, and I think that a lot of people say, like, well, why don't the Palestinians just, like, stop fighting and then there'll be peace? And it's because, like, if you think about it, so we talked about, like, the territories. What a lot of people don't know is that, like, the two areas that technically belong to Palestinians, especially, I don't know too much about Gaza. I know in the West Bank that there are illegal settlements where Israelis have moved in and kicked Palestinians off of the little land that they have been given and illegally settled there. And so, like, I mean, I'm not one to condone violence in any way. I don't condone violence of, like, Palestinians attacking Israelis, but if land is occupied, like, people are gonna revolt. That's just a thing that happens.
Okay, listen, she just used the word occupied. Do you guys know what that means? Morgan, do you know what it means? What do you think she means by that?
Oh.
What do you think she means by occupied? That's a really important word in this.
Wait, say what you said again.
She said if the land is occupied, wouldn't people who are being occupied have a desire to... What do you think she mean? What does occupied mean in this case?
Like living there, have a government there and stuff like that.
That's it.
Like, is she saying, like, you said there's going to be, like, war no matter what, as long as somebody wants more, so they're always going to fight for more land, more power, more everything. That's what you're saying? Or
Kind of. So the way that I tend to, like,
nice.
describe it in conversations to people is, like, and this is, like, a very, like, dumbed down analogy, not to say that anyone here is dumb. I'm just saying, like, this is, like, my very basic analogy. And it's like, okay, so imagine that you and your family are living in a house, right? And one day, people who lived in the house, and your family's been there for, like, generations, And one day, a family that used to live in that house a while ago, and then they were like evicted or had to leave the house, knocks on your door, and they're like, hey, so we were forced out of this house, and now like our roommates or our neighbors or whatever are persecuting us. And you're like, oh, damn, that's awful. And they're like, so actually, because this was our house, we're gonna take it back. And of course you're gonna say, no, you can't take your house back because we live here now. Like, this is our house. And then they say, actually, because you said no, like, instead of like, we could split it, and you say, no, the whole house is our house because we live here. And so then they say, okay, because you said that, actually you can just, we're just gonna let you live in the kitchen and the living room, and the rest is ours. And so that's what I mean by occupying us, and they come and take over the land that you and your family, or the house that you and your family were living in, and they occupy it.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I was going to ask this earlier, but like, where would you expect them to go then? Like, if that was originally, like, where, like, I understand that it's your house now, but like, where do they, because like, I'm sure there's land for them to live that too, right? Is it all occupied by Palestinians, and like, or like originally, like in
Or
like
Israelis, or
1940.
Jews.
So like, where
Whatever.
should the Jews go?
Yeah, like where should they go? Because like, weren't they like, isn't the reason because of like World War II, or is that wrong?
Wait, hang on. Don't answer that question, okay? That's like, that's an unanswerable question that we're not going to take on here, but that's a really, really good question, okay? And I know I'm holding this down because I'm just trying, the larger meta purpose here that we're doing is not trying to change anyone's minds, because you guys aren't going to change anybody's mind, doesn't matter what you say, right? It's try to be educational to show like how far you can go if you get a couple. Hey, dude, don't read, you don't want to read that. Okay, bro, do you have a occupation? Can you say something about that word occupation for you?
I was going to initially go back to asking Zoe, where in the West Bank are the illegal Israeli settlements, are you saying?
I mean, I can't give you specific coordinates, but like.
What zone of the West Bank?
I don't
All
know the
over?
specific-
Wait, what was your
yeah.
question again, bro? I was asking her where. No, it's in there.
I was asking her where in the West Bank. She was saying there was illegal Israeli settlements.
Well,
Like-
okay, hang on. This is a really interesting question, right? Legal by whose? Look, she knows, because she grew up with a father who's not just a lawyer, he's a really good lawyer. He was my student back in the day. That lawyers can argue anything at all, okay? So, yeah, are the illegal settlements? It just depends on who you ask. And you put a bunch of lawyers in a room and politicians, and they just decide this is now suddenly legal. It's like, okay, and they have the power, and they decide, okay, it's legal, so the settlements are legal.
I was just going to go into the different zones of the West Bank and explain how there's Zone A, which has, when the West Bank was divided, there was Zone A, which was given to Palestinian control. There was Zone C, which was given to Israeli control. And there's Zone B, which was shared amongst Palestinians and Israel initially, but since Israel has withdrawn out of. So I was just asking if you were referring to Zone C, which was originally Israelis' control, as illegal settlements, or saying that they were somewhere else as well.
Dude.
Can I please butt in?
Oh, my God.
Let her talk, Sam.
No, hang on. Hang on. What you just did right there, no, but what we just demonstrated was that whole conversation about settlements just goes.
I don't want to talk about settlements. I want to talk about wording.
Okay, hang on though. Hang on. Let me see if we have another question and we can come back. Dude, what question do you have?
I was going to go back to October 7th and ask for Hamas's justification of the terrorist attack, because you were talking about how they can't get a lot of food and stuff. So I'm wondering if that was their justification, like being kind of landlocked and stuff, or what was it?
There's no justification. It was an attack. They wanted to attack because that's it. Like they wanted something to happen. Like, if the thing is, what Ethan was saying, it was given to the Palestinians. That's the thing. It's like it was given to the Palestinians, but the Palestinians were there. Israel has the entitlement to think that they can grab it, divide it, and give it to whoever they want.
Well, the Gaza Strip was won by Israel following a war, and war is a possible way
Won
of
or
gaining.
given by
Hang
Britain,
on, he has a hang on,
handed over by
has-
Lord Balfour.
Wait, hang on. He has a follow-up question for you.
It's not Britain, it's the UN.
Hang on. No, hang on. Yo, dudes. Yo, hang on. You can't do that. I can't? No. No, dude. Dudes, you can't do that. This isn't a debate. Okay? This is not a debate. You can't do that. Dude, he has a follow-up question for you.
What do you want to happen?
No.
Or, okay.
Your question was, what exactly did Hamas want to have?
Oh, okay. Yeah. What did Hamas want to happen?
I mean,
On October 7th, what did they want?
yeah, regardless of what the Palestinian people voted Hamas into regardless of what the Palestinian people believed Hamas to be for them, Hamas at its core is a terrorist group, and it has a doctrine. And if you read that doctrine, which has been publicly published by Hamas,
What does it say?
It has stated that they will not rest until all Israelis are essentially dead.
Okay, until Israel is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Do
I
you-
answer that since
Yeah, but hang on. Do you have a follow-up to that? Does that answer your question? Okay. The issue is, Hamas really was attacking. I mean, the idea is like we got to get Jews out of Palestine, and we got to release ourselves from the occupation of the Israeli government, and also in the long run is to get Jews out of Palestine, meaning that this land here would be, this land right here, bro, the whole thing, all of that would just be called Palestine, right? That's the nature of the Hamas charter. Do you have a question? All right, go ahead.
Just like based on like the weapons on both sides right now, like it just like seems like Israel has the upper hand in terms of like everything. So if like obviously it's a worst case scenario, but what would happen if Palestine did say like we give up, like we can't do this anymore, like we don't want any more people dying or whatever? Would they be put in like internment camps and stuff? Like, cause like, you know, in like during World War II in the U.S.,
Yeah.
the Japanese were put into like camps, and they're like, oh no, it's like it's nothing big, but it was like actually really bad. Is that what would happen if like if they just like if you guys just like gave up, you know?
So if Palestinians, if Hamas and other Palestinians just said, listen, man, here's what's going to happen. We're done with the wars. We're just taking this unilateral stance, right? Here's her question, right? This is a really good question. It's a perfect question for a novice, right? We're done with the wars. We're done with the fighting. We're done with all of this, right? We're putting our weapons down, and we're saying like, no more at all. We're not fighting. We're done. If Palestinians did that,
Yeah.
okay, that's a really
mean-
good. Hang on, okay, why don't you respond first, and then you respond. What would happen? Because this is a really fair question.
what would happen is Israel would push all the Palestinians in Gaza into the Sinai and all of the Palestinians into Egypt.
So listen, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. So your belief is that if Palestinians put their weapons down, the Israelis would just overpower them.
Yes.
Okay. You hear that? That's one belief.
Yeah, but if they did do that, didn't like earlier he said like Egypt is with Israel, so wouldn't that be a problem for Egypt too?
Dude,
The
nice
reason-
follow-up question.
The reason that Egypt is working with Israel is because Israel took the Sinai in 73 and then was like, we'll give it back if you, as Egypt and the other Arab countries surrounding, agree to not get involved anymore
Okay.
in what we're doing.
So listen, though, I want to just push back on something. That's a nice response. Okay. I want to push back on something. What you said, what Morgan asked, is a really important question. Okay? And that is, if Palestinians just took the initiative and said, no, we're going to put all our weapons down, we're done, we're not fighting, we're just done, we're done with everything. All the fighting, all the aspects of it, suicide bombs, rockets, et cetera, right? You said your belief is that like, oh, no, the Israelis would just completely overpower them, right? Now, what do you think, I'm going to ask Morgan, what do you think Ethan's answer is to that question?
I think he's going to say that they would accept them into their society and then just like let them live as long as they live obeying the Israel government.
As long as they don't fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connor, what do you think Ethan would say to that?
Yeah, I'm sure he'd say something like Israel would come back and let the Palestinians do their thing as long as they don't try and attack them like October 7th again.
Uh-huh. Bro, what is, not your take, right? Not yours. What is the very common response that supporters of Israel give to that question? The one that you hear most often.
I'm not sure what exactly you're looking for. However, Israel succeeded from Gaza in 2005, giving them their own land. And Gaza became its own thing after Israel ended their official occupation of Gaza in 2005. And after that, since Hamas took over, is when the issues began to continue and worsen. So I would assume that given that the people of Palestine overthrow Hamas per se and give up all the radicals, because that's what they are, radicals, to Israel, then the people of Palestine who did not necessarily.
No, but listen. No, but if the radicals, everybody, right, if they all just said, okay, listen, we're done. We're not fighting anymore. We're done. We're putting our weapons down. What do you think Israelis would say? What would they do?
I mean, that would be the equivalent of Al-Qaeda after 9/11 saying, no, actually, never mind.
Okay, so in other words, so here it is. You ready? Jala says,
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Who are the radicals? What do they want?
Hamas.
What do they want?
They want to destroy Israel and make it Palestine.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a fair response. But
yeah. Why does?
You can no, hang on. Don't ask your question here, because it's not going to go anywhere. I want to make a point, though. I mean, it's not going to go somewhere, but.
Yeah, unfortunately it won't, but that's the thing. It's it's radical that me as a Palestinian, I'm upset that I'm here in America and not where my family would have been if people hadn't created an Israeli government.
No,
we are radical because we want our land, we want our traditions. My family is from Jaffa, Palestine. My grandfather used to be a merchant of the Jaffa oranges that everyone in Britain loves so much they've made into cookies.
Can I ask you a question?
Wait, hang on.
No,
hang on. No.
It's radical for me as a Palestinian to be upset that there's no Palestine.
No, hang on.
There's a West Bank and there's a Gaza Strip that's controlled by Israel. But I can't be upset that there's no Palestine.
No, nor can you be upset is that you yourself, you're an American citizen, right?
Yeah.
Would maybe not even be able to travel there.
No, I am.
Israelis would
I
just say,
am.
no.
That's the thing. I am because I'm a U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of my family who don't have U.S. citizenships, they can't go into Israel. I've been into Israel.
Okay.
Meanwhile, me
All right.
as an American Jew who was born here and has no connection to that land whatsoever, except for thousands of years ago, I could go to that land and get Israeli citizenship because I'm Jewish.
Okay.
But
Here.
yeah,
Okay.
but her family can't go there.
Yep. Okay, here. Listen, I'm not downplaying any of that.
I know you're not. He is.
No, I don't think he is. No. Are you?
He's calling Palestinians radical for wanting liberation.
He talked about the radical elements of the Palestinian movement.
But that's the thing.
No. But listen, I could make an argument. Yo, hang on. No, dude.
He just compared Hamas to Al-Qaeda.
Yes, they
Okay,
committed a
two
terrorist attack
groups.
on another
Two
nation.
terrorist groups, but the thing is,
Wow,
Wait,
I
hang on.
compared two
Please,
terrorist
Can I
groups.
ask a question?
Hang on.
Or, all right.
Yo, hang on a second. Yo. All right, dude, hang on. Here's what is radical, right?
terrorist attacks are
No.
radical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. He asked, what would happen if Palestinians put down their weapons, or if Israelis put down their weapons, right? And you said, basically, oh, well, if our side put down their weapons, the other side would drive us into the sea. And what you said was, well, the other side, if they, well, first off, they would never put down their weapons, but, you know, if they did, certain elements of them would never put down their weapons, so they would drive us into the sea or whatever, right? So the idea here, I just want to make a point to the two of you. Do you notice that both, and I'm assuming you would agree with her,
I mean,
just yes or no? You're more likely to agree with her.
more likely to agree
Okay.
with Java.
So both sides, you see part of the problem here is both, on both ends of the spectrum, people don't even believe that peace is possible. And when you don't believe that peace is possible, of course, then peace is not possible. And then that's a problem. So do you have a response to that? A question?
It's not really a question, but it's like something like I've noticed, because I feel like in other countries it's the same, like with how China, it literally is sucking up like all of the Asian countries near it. Like I feel like the way you said like peace is not achievable if nobody believes it is, I feel like it's just not. Just the way the humans are, like it's like, and also like I have like a question in general.
Okay.
Is like,
Kick another question out.
I feel like why is the focus so much on this right now when there's the same thing happening in other countries too, but it just feels like it's like, how is this more important than like the Uyghur Muslims in China and like the Tibetans like
Okay.
being driven out of like Tibet and stuff like that, if it's the same thing like happening?
Uh-huh.
The United
Or in
States is
Sudan.
involved.
Okay, or in Sudan.
That
No,
is-
hang on,
that
hang
is
on.
an amazing
This is-
question.
This is a really cool question. So
Yeah.
each one of you really quickly answer this question.
I just want to say that is an amazing question that the people of Israel are also asking, considering all the protests that broke out in favor of Palestine following the terrorist
Okay.
attack on October 7th.
Okay, that's a fair response. Dude, what's your response? Why are we talking about this today? Like, what makes it really important?
Because the United States supports the Israeli army with funds and wants Israel to exist because they want an ally in the Middle East, and so they fund Israel so they can have an ally in the
Hang on, I
Middle
want to
East.
push back on that. I want you to take another stab at it. This is not just a class on the United, even though we're here in the U.S. This is a global class. We got students from all over the world in the class. We have people watching the stream from all over the world. Why, of all the conflicts, because I could come in and we could talk about the Uyghurs, right, in China,
Yeah.
right? The Muslim. We can talk about any conflict. Why
would
do you
say-
why do you think I chose this one? And make it short. Like, what do you think?
Okay, partially social media, because there's a lot of social media coverage in Gaza, and so people are actually seeing like the horrific things that
Okay.
are happening and are able to see it. And when you're able to see it and like see the horrors in front of your own eyes, it's easier to sympathize with it and care about it.
Okay. Why do you think? What's your answer to her question?
Because when Russia invaded Ukraine, you could see it very clearly in the responses from the White House and from even news reporters who were literally reporting this to the people of the United States, to us. You could clearly see the sympathy, and a lot of news reporters even said, these are white people. These are not poor people. This is not a third world country. It is very clear that why people care about Ukraine is for those reasons, okay? Sudan is also going through a horrible, horrible genocide. The Congo, the same thing has been happening for
Wait.
years, a
Yeah.
long, long time, okay? And the Muslims in China, that also wasn't covered.
Yeah. hang on.
Ye-
These are talking points. Listen, you're talking to me, okay? So here, I'm gonna answer the question. I'm gonna answer it a different way, okay? You're not talking about average people. You're talking about me, okay? I could come in here. We could have had a class on any one of those. We had classes on Ukraine, right? We've had a class on Sudan. We've had a class on the Uyghurs in China, right? We'd have all those. We could have done any of those today, but we didn't do that. We did this one. Why do you think I did this one?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think that because of the United States' interest in this conflict and their participation hand in hand with Israel, I think that's why a lot of people are invested, and I think that it's because a lot of Americans, a lot of Jewish Americans go to Israel, travel there a lot, have dual citizenships, especially a lot of Congress people and people who work in the government. And the president himself, years ago, and still stands by this, says that if there was no Israel, we would have to create an Israel.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna buy that. I mean, first off, that's not the answer for me at all. It has nothing to do.
I said
with that.
I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure why you
All
did
right.
it, but I'm saying like it's a very
There-
hot topic.
There is a yeah. I know you weren't like putting words in my. Look, what do you get from what they all said? Why are we talking about this? Why this?
Because people are getting pissed. Like, everyone's arguing, and I'm like confused over here. I'm like, what's happening a little bit?
What? Okay,
And
dude.
man,
Okay, go ask your next question.
I don't even know what I was gonna say. Honestly, it was so long ago.
No,
But
no, ask a new question.
oh, a new question.
Yeah. Dude,
Um,
awesome.
I don't even know.
Go ahead. What are you confused about still? Like what are you So this is the point, bro, right here, where somebody like you, Morgan, somebody like you, right, where you say like, I'm never going to get through this because people are just arguing about stuff that I don't get. So I'm going to just turn my brain off. So turn your brain back on. What do you still want to know? What do you need to know? Wait, you got one? You ask it while you're thinking because you're on next.
I don't mean to be mean to you, but why does it feel like you can't see the other side?
You feel like Ethan can't see the other side?
Like I can see why she's getting mad at him because it feels like he's just like trying to like strike a nerve with her, and like it feels like he can't see her side too.
Dude, that's really interesting you say that because I feel like the opposite.
You feel like she can't see his side?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but like he was just like, I don't know. It just feels like he's just like a brick wall, and she's just like talking to a wall.
Well, I don't know.
That's what it feels like.
I would say she seems equally like a brick
Can
wall.
I respond
I
to
guess
that?
so, but
Wait,
like,
hang on.
but in the first lecture
No, hang on.
that you talked
Go
about,
ahead.
I feel like she did understand where he's coming from, and she like conceded to him, like, oh, I understand why you feel like you should deserve your land back because it was yours first.
Yeah.
And like, so I feel like she did, but he's never conceded in both lectures. Like he's just been like very firm in his
Whoa.
point, and he's very
Okay.
like.
Dude, that's okay. So she remembers that from the first lecture for you, right? Very, very cool. Get ready with your question, by the way. Dude, that's a very cool observation. So she's saying you didn't concede ever that like, wow, but yeah, your land taken, like, so many people lost their land, right? They lost their livelihood, they lost everything, just fruit orchards, one thing after another, right? So can you give her a response to that? Like she's saying it feels like you don't care or something.
It's not that he doesn't care. It just feels like he can't see the other side.
Okay.
Like it's like he can only see his side, basically.
Okay. Can you see that side? Like, can you look at like her family that lost their fruit orchard, right? And like it's gone forever. Like, yeah. Like, what do you?
It's just, of course, yes, I do see the other side, and I do have sentiment, but it's just, of course, the conflict of interests between once again, it's Israel versus Palestine, and there is always, by admitting that the other side has value, you're belittling your own side.
Ah, okay, dude.
You can
Did you
say
hear- no,
and,
hang on,
not
hang on,
but.
Hang on. Yeah, hang on. Did you hear that, right? Yes. That's not true. Look, here, do this, right? Joe, is it your great
Yes, my
grandparents?
great grandparents.
Dude, it's her great grandparents that lost their entire livelihood. So you don't have to talk about the issues. Just tell her, speak to her great grandparents. You just have to do that.
I mean, to have your great grandparents and your family's livelihood removed potentially forcibly from where they have developed themselves and laid down roots for possibly generations, if that was my family, I would certainly be upset. And that is a tragedy.
So you threw two words in there. You did possibly, right? And you said potentially and possibly. No, here, I want you to say it again. Her grandparents didn't potentially lose. They lost everything.
I only said that because I don't know the circumstances
Okay, but
directly.
assume that it's just they lost
Okay.
everything and they got kicked out and it's like.
For your grandparents to have gotten kicked out forcibly is a tragedy. And if that happened to my family, I would, of course, understand your side and have the same rage.
Dude.
I just want to say like
No,
one
hang
quick
on, hang
thing.
on. Don't, whatever you're gonna say, don't say it.
Why?
Here's what I want you
Why?
to say. Did you hear what he just said?
I heard what he said.
And
A
how's that-
lot of the
how's it-
sentiment, when he's speaking, that's the thing. It's always potentially and possibly, and it's
No,
always
forget that,
but.
but he changed it. He
Yeah,
changed it for you.
and that's the thing. It's very important how you say things. When you say
No.
but instead of and,
Dude.
it's a completely
Do you
different
see that?
meaning.
So hang on a second. You ready? Hang on. Yo, hang on. So you said that he seems like he wasn't willing to hear the other side. What? So now I'm trying to get her to do the same thing. You ready? So watch this. Dude. Hang on. But he changed that. Okay, like it's hard. He's a man, I'm a man. Sometimes it's hard for us to touch our feelings, you know what I mean? And but he changed it, and he said, "Yeah, that."
But we're all humans.
No. He said that happened. That's a tragedy. If that was me, I would be heartbroken.
Okay, and I appreciate that. That's great.
Okay, that's all you gotta say.
But
No, that's all you got. No, say it to him, dude. Ethan.
I appreciate that you said that
Okay.
after 2 lectures.
No, dude. She had to throw. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not fair.
Listen, can I please just say one thing,
No,
like
no,
really
no.
quickly,
You
please?
can after
no,
you
no, no.
do the other thing.
No. No, that's the thing. I don't hate Ethan. The thing
know.
is, like, I'm not like coming at him, but the thing is that I can say what happened in World War II that caused a pickup in Jewish migration to Palestine is awful, and what happened in Palestine after is also awful.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
That's
Hang
what
on.
I'm trying to
Okay,
say.
No, I got that. Did you hear that? And that's the and thing. That's really important. You heard that, right? And so, Ethan, let that be a lesson to you. Hang on, you're going to get your thing. The lesson to you is, get ready with your question. It doesn't mean you're not diminishing. Two things can be equally wrong. You listen to me on this issue. Everything's a tragedy. So you can be in both places at once. Dude, can you just wait and hear his question?
Yeah, but I have an answer to Morgan's. though.
Okay, go ahead.
So, okay. I feel like in this place, last time Sam asked me to be in the middle, and I was like, Sam, I don't know if I can be in the middle because that's not where my beliefs lie. But in this thing, in that question, I can understand that because I understand why Ethan can seem like a brick wall, and I understand why Jawa can seem like a brick wall, because I would agree with Jawa, and I would be very staunch in that statement, but I understand why Ethan is so passionate about this, because when you grow up Jewish, a lot of Jewish religion and a lot of Jewish culture is being told that Israel is our ancestral land and Israel belongs to us, and Israel is the only, you get told Israel is the only place where Jews can be safe, and in religious ceremonies we say next year in Jerusalem. So
Yeah.
I understand why a lot of Jews are so passionate and so staunch about protecting Israel. I don't agree with it, but I can understand that.
You understand? Okay, that's good. Dude, hang on. Dude, nice answer. All three of you had nice answers. Dude, your last question.
This one might be a little hard to word, but without being a little too blunt, when is it time to move on in terms of human history? Like, there's always examples of people taking over people's lands, genocides, right? Like, we destroyed the Native American population. You don't see them banging on my door saying, I used to live here,
No, they would, though. Other places they would. I mean, go in the Southwest, people are really holding that closely. But go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's more of this didn't happen to you. It didn't happen to anyone who's really alive almost anymore. It's like 70 years ago. When is it time to move on and stop having people die?
Oh, dude. So what you're getting from, what you got from this, what you're taking away is just like, God, maybe we just have to get past the conflict. Give it up.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you getting from it?
Well, but you said that most people do want to get past it. It's
Yeah,
just
most people
a
do.
group that
It's just
can't.
hard. It's
So,
difficult. Dude, yes. Do you... All right, listen, let me say this. First off, most people want to get past it. That's like a really important takeaway. Thanks, man. Dudes, we have to cut. What I want to say is, you guys, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Dude, thanks. The stream. I know there were a whole bunch of questions that we were trying to put up on the stream and we didn't. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'll be streaming and for office hours. So if you jump back in tomorrow, I'll take on every one of those questions, right? And for the class, just know that we open the stream up on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock for a couple hours and I take questions. So if you want to jump in, you can do that. Okay, dude.